So just in one night, and my whole entire world opened up and changed. And that was my like call. I had a come to God moment. And God was like, I'll save your life. You save the world with mushrooms.
Vertical Farming Podcast, Season 12. Regular listeners to the show, welcome back. I appreciate everything you do to support the show across all our social media platforms, our channels, verticalfarmingpodcast.com, this YouTube channel, everything else we do under the AgTech Media Group umbrella. If this is your first time listening and watching, I'm positive you're in the right place, as this is the show where we interview fascinating CEOs and founders of the leading vertical farming companies from around the world. I'm your host, Harry Duran, co-founder of the AgTech Media Group, founder of Fullcast, our full-service done-for-you podcast agency, and podcaster since 2014 with my first show, Podcast Junkies. In case you missed last episode, we spoke with Renko Scheel. He is the sales manager of indoor farming at TTA ISO, and he brought 25 years of experience in the horticulture industry to our conversation. His journey from facility management to becoming a key player in automation and robotics for vertical farming offers up unique insights into the evolution of indoor ag. In that episode, Renko shared his perspective on the current state of vertical farming, and he emphasized the importance of knowing your market and thinking like a grower. He discussed the challenges faced by the industry, including the need for pragmatism and collaboration, and he offered valuable advice for those looking to enter or expand into vertical farming. Please check that out if you have not done so already. This week, I have the pleasure of speaking with John James Staniszewski. I sure hope I pronounced that right because it took me a couple of tries, as you'll see in this episode. John and I connected at Indoor AgCon. I'd previously seen him at Indoor AgTech in Chicago the year before, and he had a fantastic presentation at Indoor AgCon earlier this year, and I knew I had to have him on the show. He's got such a fantastically inspiring story. He's the creator of the fungitarian lifestyle and is a pioneering force in the mushroom farming industry. His journey from nightclub management of all things, which if you've been paying attention is something that's sort of near and dear to my heart as I started out in my early days as a DJ. So he talks a little bit about that. But that's his start, and he went from there to becoming a mushroom cultivation expert, which is wild. It's a testament to the power of perseverance and adaptability in entrepreneurship. It's very commendable. We dive deep into his experience building a successful mushroom farm from the ground up, and we discuss the solutions he developed along the way. John shares valuable insights on vertical farming, the importance of hands-on leadership, and his mission for creating a community of 10 million fungitarians by 2027. Impressive. His passion for educating people about the benefits of mushrooms, especially for children's cognitive health, is truly inspiring. And this conversation offers a unique perspective into the indoor farming industry and the potential of mushrooms to revolutionize our approach to nutrition and sustainability. 5 takeaways I want you to listen out for in this episode. Number 1, embrace failure as a learning opportunity. John's journey shows the setbacks and challenges are essential for growth in this industry. Use failures to refine your approach and improve your operations. Something I'm all too familiar with as an entrepreneur myself. Number 2, focus on producing more food at lower costs. The ultimate goal should be increasing food production and accessibility, not just raising capital or developing new tech. 3, lead by example in your farming operation. As John demonstrates, being hands-on and understanding every aspect of your farm builds respect and dedication among your employees. 4, explore innovative ways to use excess produce. John's created a new product line from surplus mushrooms, turning a potential loss into a business opportunity. Look for creative solutions to minimize waste. And 5, prioritize education and community engagement. That just goes without saying. John's efforts to create a fungitarian lifestyle show the importance of building awareness and fostering a supportive community around your products. So many great insights. We had a fantastic conversation, and you can definitely feel the energy in this one. If you're enjoying this episode or past episodes, please share this with a friend. It's one of the best ways to grow the show. And if you're feeling extra generous, head on over to verticalfarmingpodcast.com/love, leave us a rating, and I'll be sure to read it out on a future episode. You'll notice we get a little excited, and there's definitely a couple of expletives in here, so you might want to make sure the kids are tucked away for this one. I always want to make sure you're focusing your energy on this conversation. Rest assured, you can always visit verticalfarmingpodcast.com to read the full show notes for each episode, which includes all guest links as well. And lastly, don't forget to click that subscribe button below. It's the best way to be notified when these fantastic conversations go live. Enjoy my conversation with John James. So John James Staniszewski, did I get that right?
Nailed it. Perfect. It's impressive on the first time.
Creator of the fungitarian lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining me on the Vertical Farming Podcast.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Where's home for you?
Home is Chicago.
Okay.
So right now, home is Chicago for now. And then next week I'll be in Vegas and living there for a few months and potentially going over to Florida. There's many vertical farming opportunities in my way right now. So I'm kind of leaving myself open to be where I can be of most service at.
So is it more like a nomadic lifestyle for now?
Yeah, I've decided to pick up the nomadic lifestyle and,
Okay.
live out of a few suitcases. My girlfriend lives in Vegas, so I will have a place to stay at. But since we do travel so much, it just feels that way,
Okay.
So everything's packed properly to travel the right way.
Where were you raised?
I was born and raised in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been out here my entire life. My family's got really deep roots here. Um, and yeah, I've built my whole business and success before mushrooms, being very involved in the Chicago scene. I used to run nightclubs back in the day and,
Okay.
and I've been a gym owner and personal trainer and nutritionist. And so I've had hundreds of clients all around the city and I've just made some really, really good connections being in the city and promoting the city. I've been everywhere and, I love it here.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite places in the world.
What's your earliest entrepreneurial memory?
Oh man, I guess entrepreneurial. Shit, I don't know if this is entrepreneurial, but I've been working since I was 11. I've realized that you can get money carrying people's bags at the golf clubs, at
Okay.
the golf courses, and I was like a caddy for a summer, and then I started. So I worked at my family as a fast food service restaurant out here,
Okay.
and I started working there at like 13, bussing tables
Yeah.
and sweeping and doing that kind of stuff. But I realized though at like maybe 12 or 13 that if I went the extra mile and gave a little bit of extra service and brought them a little bit of extra catch up, that I can incentivize my tipping. And so
Yeah.
I started getting tips when you're in a fast food service, right? That doesn't happen, And so
Yeah.
I realized that there's a level of service that you can give that will
Yeah.
give you a return. And that's kind of really, where that idea started. But working that young made me realize that I never want to work for anybody. So I haven't had like a real 9 to 5 job, I don't know, since I was like 18 years old. I was a personal
Yeah.
banker for like 6 months. And then I was like,
Okay.
never again.
Not the 9 to 5 kind of guy.
No, not for me, my friend.
Yeah. I had to learn that the hard way. I was in corporate for 20 plus
Oh
years.
shit. Okay.
I wore the suit. I was in New York City,
Oh
taking the subway in. Yeah.
damn. The whole thing, huh?
But also, I was my first love is house music. So I grew
Oh,
up DJing. Like I still got my turntables here in the office, my Technics
oh
1200s, and
no
so growing
way.
up in New York, like I was there for the birth of hip hop, and I was like 15, 16. And I was going to parties, and I was staring at the DJ, and I'm like, I want to do that.
Hmm.
And so basically, I just learned how to like beat match, and was making mixes, and so it's still a passion of mine. Still got my SoundCloud up.
Right.
So when you
That's
mentioned the nightclub scene, I mean, I was like, that was my, coming of age in like late 80s and 90s, New York City. I mean, of all
dude,
places.
no better time or place to be. People always ask where would you go back to? And I was like 80s and 90s.
Yeah, yeah,
Nightclub
yeah.
scene era of expanding these cities. Because Chicago, I mean, our big thing is house music.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Like going to
yeah,
Sound Bar and all these other places, like house is huge here. And so, yeah, like that's just another thing. Like the summertime, we go hard.
yeah,
It's like as many festivals as we can squeeze in, as much house music as we can listen to. And yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big fan.
How did you get involved in the scene?
Really just, personal training didn't pay
Yeah,
at like 18, 19 years old. And so
yeah,
when I was at the gym, one of my guys there was a bouncer. And he was like, dude, don't worry. You just need to look jacked and stand there and you're good. It's like, doesn't get crazy. And I ended up being able to get a job before I was 21, And so starting at like 19 years old.
yeah,
And then so by the time I was 21, it was like, okay, I already got the whole idea of the club scene. Now I can kind of bartend. Now
yeah.
I have my leadership skills so I can implement that. And then it just kind of went from like one spot to the next. And I ended up becoming the head VIP host and ran the largest nightclub in Chicago history. They opened up this place called Castle. And I mean, having 25 bottle servers, like the Bulls players would come in and,
Wow.
popping bottles, base of spades, $200,000 tables, like, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so like that's really what got me into it, was just the sick money, you know,
Yeah.
like it was unbeatable. And then, when you're training, it's like, you're not super busy when you start. So you got time,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
How'd you finally wrap that up? And what was the signal for you that you needed to move on?
Yeah. So I wrapped it up in between, this where I was like still partying all the time. And then I found out about bodybuilding, or like physique
Mm,
competitions. And I
yeah.
decided, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna turn, I was already really fit. I was already like, everything was okay, but I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go next level. And
Yeah.
I like just quit drinking, quit partying, and just dedicated like 3 months into getting ready for this show. And like got down to like 5% body fat and the rippest I've
Wow.
ever been. And during that time, I just realized that like I could still work and not drink and like not
Mm,
party. But then that gets old really fucking fast.
yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, I can't drink and bodybuild.
Yeah.
So I have to pick one. And I
Yeah.
fell in love with bodybuilding. So it was like a natural thing to just, and once I got into that market, I ended up getting around more people. And so training kind of just started elevating. And I
Mm,
was like, okay, I can compensate now with clients, 3 clients instead of working at a bar for 6 hours,
okay.
you know? And so
Yeah.
that's really what transpired. And I just really wanted to be a lot healthier, like I wasn't always this Mr. Fungitarian
Yeah.
fitness, like that just, I was always into it, but I partied my ass off my younger
Yeah.
years, and
Your body was like probably in conflict. Like, hey, dude, you're trying to get fit, but you're also drinking, so you're sending mixed messages to your body. Like,
it,
you
it was like,
washing
well,
your creatine down with a beer or something like
it was like, yeah,
that.
am I going to eat dinner tonight or should I just drink my calories? So it was like, okay, that's kind of how it had to be. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's enough. So yeah, after I got out of that party scene, I went really, really hard on the personal training and the
Yeah.
bodybuilding. And, I became a bodybuilding coach. Even during
Mm,
that, I had like 10 first place competitors, and
mm,
it was amazing. It was a good run. I was a sponsored athlete for a supplement company. I was going to the
okay.
Arnold, the Olympia. And then, during that though, the crazy thing about it, and that's what I'm trying to convey with so much health, is that like, even though that was the epitome of health, it was the best I ever looked and the worst I ever felt.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like, I'm taking all of these things and doing all these supplements and all this. And it's like, you're just switching what you're doing for
Yeah.
so-called healthy,
Mm,
and then that's when I woke up to all of this. And essentially, um, so at that point, I was, uh, I was competing heavily, like deadlifting like 500 pounds and like all that kind of crazy stuff.
yeah.
And I ended up slightly tearing my L4, L5, and got
Okay.
prescribed a bunch of opiates.
What
And
was that? Did you cut out for
I
a
got
second there?
prescribed a bunch of opiates.
Oh, wow.
And so it went from like 5 a day, 10 a day to 20 a day.
Wow.
Just like that for like 2 years straight. And I couldn't figure out how to get off, while still like I'd take like 10 of these things and go train 10 people,
Phew.
it
Wow.
made me feel like Superman.
Yeah.
And then that's when I realized like, oh shit, everything I learned in bodybuilding was kind of a joke. Like all these supplements are a joke, like everything's, and now I'm addicted to these fucking pills because I didn't chill and I should have relaxed and rested,
Wow. Yeah.
and so that is when I found magic mushrooms.
Mm,
And I used magic mushrooms one night and took my opiate addiction away instantaneously.
wow.
Yeah. So just in one
Yeah.
night, and my whole entire world opened up and changed. And that was my like call. I had a come to God moment. God was like, I'll save your life. You save the world with mushrooms.
Oh,
So from that point on, there's a lot more to the story, but it's essentially that was the catalyst that shifted everything for me. And when I woke up free of not having to take this substance, a miracle, it
yeah.
was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do whatever you say.
Yeah. Had you previously to that ever had what you would maybe call a spiritual experience?
So yeah, I've always been a spiritual person, whether it be focusing from a religious standpoint of looking at
Yeah.
God. I
Yeah.
grew up Catholic, and
Okay.
so I've always had that. But my mother was a very spiritual person, like a hippie spiritual person, and
Yeah. Yeah.
tarot
Yeah.
cards and zodiacs and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had that upbringing as well. So I always knew that there was more out there, right? And like reading my zodiac signs my entire life to me, So it's like, you get to see both spectrums. And then for a period, I kind of just felt I just didn't care, I fell out of it when I was in the nightclub stuff. And then that's what really brought me back into loving it and studying, the universe and God and where we are at
Mm,
spiritually. And so I've studied, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity. I've looked into, the different metaphysics of essentially what is capable with our mind and how we transmute our thoughts into energy. And that energy then transfers out to other people. And then
yeah.
taking that understanding through a lot of self-help books. I didn't read a full book till I was 26 years old,
Wow.
and the first
Yeah.
book I read was The Laws of Success by
Oh,
Napoleon.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
took that and fucking ran with it. you know,
You're like, oh, user guide.
I
Got
was
it.
like, dude, there's a fucking manual. Oh my God. And so that
Yeah.
like transpired everything. And I like I would say is the biggest catalyst for me and my success is that I took that as 100% belief.
Yeah.
That's the truth. You can do that. You can set your intention, have a definite purpose, call upon it, pray upon it, and you're going
Yeah.
to track that energy towards you. So I use that. And, now I respect all spirituality. I respect all
Yeah.
religion. I encourage it. I teach people through mushroom ceremonies and working with them on coaching,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be
Mm-hmm.
microdosing or whatever it might be, but to find the God for you,
Mm,
find
yeah.
whatever that might be, but
Yeah.
know that there's this invisible, intelligent, infinite source that is there to call upon if you decide.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're ready and open to it, and if you've invited it in a way, either through your life choices or because, you've decided that, it's time to have that conversation. I've been on a spiritual journey probably for 20 plus years, but
Oh, nice.
yeah. So it's like the first book I think was that cracked it open was Deepak Chopra's The Seven Spiritual Laws of
The great
Success.
one.
Yeah. And so it just kind of just spiraled from there. And then I always tell people now it's going to be hard to outwoo me at this point because I literally have gone down light workers, rabbit holes, like pyramids, like what's under the Sphinx, like,
Dude, thank you, Harry. Thank you. I'm so with you. Like, I, and I feel bad sometimes now because like people come up to me and start saying it, and it's like, all right, cool. So now I know you're gonna go down this rabbit hole next. You're gonna turn
Yeah,
this
yeah,
way.
yeah.
You're gonna turn that way. And it's like this never-ending journey. Where it's like I explore it now, but I realize that you can't spend your time always learning. You need to spend your time living.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Living what you have taken in and then embodying that. And I think that's the fucking hardest part.
Yeah, for sure.
Is coming back to those reminders that miracles happen every day and
Mm,
that you should have like a 5 set of miracles that have happened to you because it's all happened. You all seem to like
yeah.
be unbelievable. And it's like
Yeah.
draw upon those every time you fucking forget. Like
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, my current fascination is the reality creation and like multiple timelines and just how they're all existing at once and
Mhm.
how you just have to raise yourself to the vibration of the timeline where what you want has already happened,
Correct.
and then you live as if it's already happened. And it's kind of like the Esther Hicks vibe set as well. And so me and my partner have been having some conversations about that as well. But I think it's the more you open yourself up to it, I think there is some integration that you have to do because I've done like ayahuasca ceremonies
Mhm.
and it's like it's a powerful thing, but like then the real work comes after where you have to figure out like everything that just came in, like what are you going to do with it and what are you going to change about your life?
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. I follow that philosophy as well because people don't realize that we're actually living in the past dependent on words that have set traumas into us that can't allow us to push forward into
Mm,
this dimension because we are set on timeline loops, and it's getting past that and realizing that you're allowing the world to keep you stuck in that loop.
mm,
But with the ayahuasca and with the mushrooms, it's so powerful and it's so much that if you're
yeah,
not integrating and you're not like journaling while you're doing it and then getting around other people, like what I see all the time is other people have those profound moments, they connect, they get back to it, but then they go back around and the 5 people closest to them all are
yeah,
still stuck in this matrix and living this game. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, and then you like
yeah,
disbelieve all of this belief that just came to you. And
sure,
so integration has to be a part of any ceremony and a part of
yeah,
your life because it's so much. You're never going to get it on the first time, like it's
yeah,
going to be, it's not a one and done. It's a forever learning process,
yeah.
you know?
Although the people that do the ibogaine, they do the one and done, and they're just like, I'm good.
You know what, dude? Thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying that because
I haven't done it. I've heard
I
like it's just
know, I know.
wild.
I'm
Yeah.
obsessed. I'm obsessed and studying it.
But it's for a big time, like PTSD type stuff. I
Well,
think it really like for
it's
people that really need that, like, reset.
for me, it's for the addict. It's for the
Yeah, the
heroin
addict.
addict.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah,
for the person that can't let that cannabis addiction or whatever the addiction might be. Like
sure.
like, I've talked to countless people about it. It's a miracle.
Yeah,
I've talked to a friend that's like gotten off of heroin who's had heroin in the house that like went back and just threw it away. Like, you know what I'm
wow.
saying? Like that doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
That's not,
yeah.
so there is really big breakthroughs coming with that. And I think the United States is really going to lean heavy into that. I know Texas is working on bringing ibogaine therapy for people.
Mm, yeah.
And so that essentially could be the one and done, but it is on my to-do list in like sometime in the next year
Oh, wow.
for
Okay.
sure. Just the only one I haven't done yet.
Yeah, we might have to have a follow-up after that
Yeah,
just to check it.
100%.
So, how has that affected? I love this podcast because I can just ask whatever I want.
Yeah,
Like,
that's super
it's,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I just kind of follow my own threads and usually the listeners along for the journey. But like, how has this journey, this personal spiritual journey for you, affected how the outside world interacts with you?
I've always been a weirdo.
Mm,
So in all reality, it was for me, I've been on this like universal timeline where all the things that I want to embody and do have just been ahead of time.
mm,
And like mushrooms was one of those things, but so is
yeah.
spirituality. I've been doing Wim Hof for almost a decade, like,
Okay. Yeah.
I've been in this for such
Yeah.
a long time. And, the reality has caught up to me, as I say it, is like
Okay.
now it's socially acceptable and it's a
Yeah.
normal thing and everybody does it. And it's like,
Yeah.
but back then it wasn't. But I think that's what separated me above. And that's why people worked with me. They know I'm getting up early and I'm going and meditating and I'm going to go on, do 10-mile walks so I can be spiritually connected to God more. And I'm going to fast for 72 hours or I'll do a
Okay.
5 day. And so I think over time, the world has just become more of that. So it's been more acceptable and open. But no, dude, like 7, 8 years ago, it was goofball, it was just like, oh, okay, what are you doing? That's weird.
Who have been some of your mentors along the way, on this path?
Man, like my three go-to that I always tried to, or four, I guess, to draw back onto is Michael Singer. He's fantastic. Untethered Soul, if you've never read it.
Yeah.
David Goggins,
Oh yeah. He's
you
just a
know,
beast.
he's just a beast. You can't listen to him and not want to go run or do
Yeah.
something, you know?
He's pushing the limits of what's possible or even should be done to the human body, but it just shows you like, how much of it is a mental game.
Oh yeah, man. He breaks and that's what I'm saying. The book isn't about how to, or his story isn't about fitness. It's not about working out. It's about the mind and
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
actually capable from just a regular person.
Okay.
And I think that's the biggest message that you can get and embody is that, he's not special.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
just another normal guy. Yeah. Marcus Aurelius.
yeah.
I read Meditations by Marcus
Okay.
Aurelius almost every day.
Okay. Okay.
And so, it's all different facets, but for me, I always tell people that in this life, I have a lot of cool friends and I have a lot of cool people, but I want to draw upon grandmasters. And even if I've
Yeah.
never met them, they're my best friends. They're my mentors, because I can call upon their books or their ideas because that's what I know that I wanted to embody. And at the time, I didn't have that network of people that I could call upon and rely upon. So you
Yeah.
end up wanting to, I'm a big believer that you are the 5 closest people that you surround yourself with.
Jim Rohn.
Yeah,
Yeah, classic quote.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I realized that I could just embody them. And like
Yes.
the character that I want to be is part of them. And like in different instances, I can call upon the Goggins. I can call
Yeah.
upon the Michael Singer and surrender. I can ask, Marcus Aurelius, what's the philosophy in this lesson?
Sure.
And so those have been really big mentors to me along this path. And I mean, plenty others, but definitely those three.
You mentioned a fourth you were considering.
I know, and I lost it because Marcus Aurelius
Okay.
stepped in. But the other one, which I guess it's not a mentor, but if I've read every single one of his books, but it would be Napoleon Hill.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Are you a ChatGPT user?
Obsessed.
My
Yeah, where
partner,
you going on that too?
well, it's funny because my partner she loves ChatGPT, and she's also a fan of Napoleon Hill. So she created this chatbot, and I'll share it with you later offline to kind of test it out. But it's called Hill's Mastermind,
Okay, no
and
way.
it takes the concept of mastermind
Yeah,
from Napoleon Hill,
right.
right? And what you do is you feed it like, in her case, she's got like some famous authors that she likes.
Hmm.
She's got like I think Tony Robbins in there, and she's got
Yeah.
some people who do IFS work and
Mhm.
Martha Beck, and just like really inspirational people from a wide range of disciplines. But essentially, you set up your council, and it's ideally someone who's got a lot of public knowledge or a book or something. So if you say David
Yeah.
Goggins, Marcus Aurelius, right, Napoleon Hill himself, right, and then just kind of you have these people, and then they're in there, and then there's this exercise where you do some free writing about stuff that's happening, and then
Mhm.
you give it to the council, and they just start chiming in,
Oh,
like,
that is so
and they
cool.
start talking to you in their voice. And so,
Oh,
like, she gave me one, and I have like Joe Rogan in there, and he'll go, "Hey,
no.
bro," like, and then it's like they respond because of there's enough
Yeah,
canon for
there's
them.
enough
And
data. Like,
that,
you
so
can
they'll
go,
respond and they'll give you guidance, and they start to kind of interact with each other. It's so
no
so crazy.
way.
Yeah, I feel like she's onto something with that
She's
because,
definitely onto something with
yeah,
that. Because yeah, I mean, dude, if I could sit down with like five of the greatest people I know every
yeah,
night and go over my bullshit,
yeah.
oh, come on.
Well, you'll be able to do that
Soon, right?
soon. So I'll definitely, I'd love to you to test it
Oh,
out.
dude, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so on board.
So when did like, you were obviously experiencing medicinal mushrooms, but when did it all start to come together for you in terms of like that this could be something that could be the future for you in terms of a business, or
Sure.
what were you seeing with the world indoor farming? I'm curious when that came on your radar.
Yeah, so the world of indoor farming really didn't come onto my radar till like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
been doing this since January 2018,
Yeah.
and it really just became to be a really, really good mycologist. And I basically like locked myself away for 2 years and just did
Yeah.
nothing but grow
Yeah.
mushrooms. And then I realized I wanted to grow a mushroom that I had the most influence on, and that would have been cordyceps because it helped fitness people. And so I
Yeah.
knew if I grew it, I could sell it.
Yeah.
And so I became a master of that. But then I got a calling. I was meditating one day and I got a download. It was like, dude, you need to save the world. You're not going to save the world with supplements. Like,
Yeah.
and so I was like, okay, well, I got to feed people. So I went and bought a mushroom farm in Missouri called Mississippi Mushrooms 1 month before
Yeah.
COVID and tried to bring it back up to Chicago. And it was an epic fail. And
Yeah. Were they using, how are they growing it?
so they were growing it on, they converted an old chicken farm, old chicken coop
Okay.
farm into other, like they converted the chicken houses into grow rooms. And it was basically just this
Oh,
like big
wow.
open barn. It
Yeah.
was wild, but they had equipment that could produce up to 250,000 pounds of mushrooms a year.
Whoa.
And so I was like, they have to close their business because the city bought their lot and is putting up something. And it was like, all right, this is our sign to get out. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I can take this and I can get going. Right.
Yeah.
And it was on its way to Chicago, like the day the announcement happened. And so I have like 60 grand worth of equipment on trucks with that need forklifts and everything to get it off. And that happens. And all of a sudden everything starts closing down. I had to go
Oof.
rent out another two like forklift excavators and send them to my buddy's horse farm, like an hour and a half away from Chicago, because he had a barn with extra storage. And we
Wow.
stored like 4,000 square feet worth of equipment.
Oh my
I
God.
was like, fuck, like, what the fuck? You just told me to go buy all this equipment. Like,
Oh man.
got the download for it. And I was like, oh God. So I didn't worry too long though, because I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a sign that it's like going to come later and I got to focus on growing cordyceps.
Sure.
And so I went back to doing that because I was doing really good and I was obsessed with it. I loved it. I loved
So how are you processing the cordyceps? You're processing them, like drying them and then grind them down into
Yeah,
supplements?
so I mean, no, I was selling them fresh because there was
Oh,
other
okay.
people around the country that wanted to take it and process them. I
Oh,
would
okay.
also dehydrate them as well. So
Okay.
if they
Okay.
wanted to try, they can get it dry or they could get it fresh. I didn't, I was getting ready to get into the supplement game and gonna do the
Mm,
tinctures and products. And then like a month after that happened, I got a call from a friend and they were like, "Hey, do you know there's a mushroom farm down the street from your old gym?" And I was like, "Get out of here." Did it? No way. So I go drive to the gym and I like type in the address. I'm like, fuck, it's a 10-minute walk. I was like, "Are you
Wow.
kidding me?"
Wow.
And walk down the street and there's this old warehouse. It's like a 6,000, 8,000 square foot warehouse. Yeah, there's like three dudes growing mushrooms in like one room in the middle of the ghetto in Chicago. And I was like, what the fuck? But they had mushrooms producing. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. You guys grow gourmet mushrooms. And I ended up coming in, talking with the guys, and found out it's my current partner,
Yeah.
and he wasn't there at the moment. I met him later, but they were like, yeah, we used to grow mussels here. And I was like, what? And I was like, okay. And then so I found out it was like a indoor mussels farm that
Yeah.
was being an intermediary between the East Coast and the West Coast.
Oh,
And was
interesting.
trying to supply high-end restaurants in Chicago, but they didn't care about the quality. They cared about the price. And
Yeah.
so the business went under, but he still had the lease. And he was
Okay.
like, well, I've got these contracts with restaurants. We like, would you guys
What else
take
can I grow?
mushrooms if I
Yeah.
had them for you? They were like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And so he's just trying to grow mushrooms, but has no experience, no mushroom, nothing. And
Okay.
so, but he's an engineer, aquaponics.
Okay. Okay.
And so he had that going for him. And I was like, okay, cool. I checked it out. I came back a couple times and I was like, hey, man, I need space. I need space to grow these cordyceps on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, renting stuff's weird right now. I see that you have a problem with your mycology, with your mushrooms. I was like,
Hmm.
trade me time for space. And I was like, let me get this in order.
What did you notice that they were doing wrong?
The SOPs, the way that they
Okay.
were cleaning everything,
Yeah.
spraying
Yeah.
bags down with, like it didn't make sense. Everything just
Yeah.
didn't make sense. And it was like, there was like a 50% contamination rate on all the
Oh
bags.
gosh.
And I was like,
Wow.
dude, this is not how this is supposed to be. He was like, no, contam happens. I was like, not like this, yo.
Yeah.
And so I just noticed like all the little, because none of them were mushroom people. They
Yeah.
like
Of
loved
course.
eating psychedelics, but they didn't know anything about mushrooms. And I was like, okay. So I just came in and started doing proper technique on inoculations and creating grain spawn and then making sure the field capacity on the bags were the right way. And how are we cutting the bags? How are we
Mm.
stacking them? Like getting into the nitty gritty.
So
But
this is all stuff that you learned on your own, right?
this is all stuff that I learned on my own that I then finally got to apply onto a bigger scale,
Yeah.
and it was not a lot. It was like 500 pounds a week, and compared, like it's not that much, but it gave me the basis that I needed because I had the language, right? Because I
Yeah.
think all
Yeah.
learning comes down to having the language. If you understand the language, you can understand how to implement on different scales. And um, I don't know if I've just always been like a thinker like that.
Hmm.
I can expand out. And so, you know, at the time I didn't know anything really about my partner. I just knew that he was like down to like grow mushrooms and like
Yeah.
get into this. And we ended up chopping it up some more. And, I was like, hey man, I'm trying to save the world here. Like I'm trying to grow 1,000,000 pounds of mushrooms or generate 1,000,000 pounds of soil. And I found out that he was a high net worth individual and actually
Okay.
had some funds to make that a reality. And I was like, dude,
Mm.
I remember sitting in the old, like half of an office on a beat up chair. And it was like, dude, if we could just manufacture mushrooms, the whole process, and bring them down to a commodity level price point, we could
Yeah.
then penetrate the grocery store market and own the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck, I think you're right. Like,
Yeah. He wasn't. So what was he thinking at the time? What was his aspirations?
like, it was like he knew it could work. He knew that there was money in it.
Yeah.
But I don't think he saw the full potential, like the full, like,
Sure.
I mean, I'm talking industry, I'm not talking business,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and then the more we talked about it, he realized it as well. And it was like, yeah, like I guarantee that this isn't a trend.
Hmm.
This isn't like,
Yeah.
it's not just
Yeah.
going to fade away. And so the lease was coming to an end and we got probably like 20 more restaurants at that point and we were doing
Oh wow.
good.
Yeah.
And so we weren't really making money, but we weren't we still had customers, so that was good.
Yeah.
And then essentially we're like, all right, dude, we're gonna go full send. Like, let's do it. Let's create the biggest mushroom farm that like we possibly can, and basically put his life savings and my life savings into this. And we moved and went. The little caveat: 1 week before we're about to move to this like beautiful, like brand new 5-year-old, 35,000 square foot building, just a little bit outside the city. Had everything. The loan, everything was perfect. It was insulated well. They canceled our lease. They were like, no, somebody else came in and outbid you. So in
Oh
1
man.
week, we had to go find 40 to 50,000 square feet to go rent out.
Oh man.
And our guy was like, fuck, what the fuck? And he found like 3 other places, and he ended up picking the one that we had because it had a better like tier layout that I knew I
Okay.
could convert it, but it was like, fuck, this building's so old. There's no floor drains. There's just so much shit that like,
Yeah, yeah.
but I have learned how to adapt a building to what I need from all of this.
Where'd you learn that?
Doing this bullshit. Like there wasn't another option. We weren't going to get another building. We weren't going to, so it was like,
You had to make it work.
had to make it work. It was either win or win,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
all on the line.
Yeah.
And so
No plan B.
no plan B, whole side. And, it was like, oh shit. Like, and then that's when, you were saying, when did I learn about vertical farming and getting into all that? It was like the first year I started to finally get more farmers because like everyone was excited. We built the whole place out in like 4 months and had mushrooms growing in 6 months. And then it was like, oh, that's when everybody started coming, USDA, farmers around Illinois. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. There's like the big thing going on. And, people were geeked up. We were doing mushrooms and everything else. And, it really kind of transpired to that. And I'd say back in like 2022, once I started working with different like foundations in the city and I started talking to their farms, because like I was like so annoyed the first year. I was like, dude, fucking everything is wrong. Like this keeps breaking. Like, and like once I realized that it wasn't really just so much us, that it was like, this is what it just means to run a farm.
Yeah.
More than anything. And it was like,
Yeah.
there's just fucking problems
Yeah.
that are actually just projects. You're just continually working on projects.
Yeah.
And so I got a better grasp of it. And then I started realizing, I already knew the food problem in the country was terrible, but I didn't realize it was the issue of growing the food and getting it to the people that was also the problem. So I thought, not that way. I thought I knew it, but I didn't realize that also even within the vertical farming space, they still weren't doing the job.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a book called The Secret Life of Groceries?
Oh no, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome and sad at the same, because someone who, as I got into this space as well, I read it and it just kind of, exposes like the underbelly of like food and how it's transported, and it's got a bunch of different examples.
I'm writing that down.
Touches everything in terms of like shipping and the trucking industry and how they're, so it's all this underbelly of like food that no one thinks about when they go to the grocery store, and they're just like, it's just there on the shelf.
Oh yeah, it makes you have such a deeper appreciation for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And also like a little grossed out.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. So yeah, you're figuring this all out. Things are breaking, but you're figuring out that you're realizing that these aren't problems. These are just projects that need to be addressed.
Yeah, and at this time, so we have 50,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Right. And we manufacture everything, as I call it, from spore to spork. So it starts with us creating the cultures, getting the strains, making the grain spawn, making the bags, cooking them, inoculating them, incubating them, fruiting them, packing them, delivering them, like the whole shebang. We did it. We realized the only way to make this a profitable business was to do it all ourselves. We didn't have a playbook. We didn't have a blueprint. We didn't have this is how you do it, because we also didn't have the money to spend on it.
Yeah.
So just like, let's hopefully just grow the mushrooms and cross our fingers that people will buy them at that point. And so we started with 25 8-foot by 20-foot shipping containers vertically stacked on top of each other.
Wow. How high did you go?
So we had 30-foot ceilings, so just double stacked. So about 16 feet high with the blocks. It comes out to about 17 feet.
Okay.
And then we have a platform in between where mushrooms get brought up on racks and then they get stacked into the rooms.
Okay. And so
we started. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So then, obviously, was Indoor AdCon your first indoor
Indoor ag tech was my
Oh,
first
in
one.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay.
They asked me, and that actually transpired the
Oh,
rest of
that's
my
right. I
life,
did see
right?
you there. Yeah, you were on a panel. That's right.
Yeah.
I briefly
Yeah.
saw you
So
there. Yeah, yeah.
that's where it all first kicked off. And then the only reason I saw you again this time was because there I ended up meeting my girlfriend who is a HVAC engineer.
Yeah.
And she essentially helped introduce me to the rest of the vertical farming world.
Yeah. What was that like? Like seeing what else is happening in the big controlled environment space? And because you were just, you got your blinders on, you're figuring out mushrooms and you got to make this work. Was it helpful for you to
Dude,
kind of just eye-opening or just like,
oh, it was so fucking eye-opening. I felt so much better about myself. I was like, oh shit, wait,
that's funny.
you guys all don't make any money? But you had $50 million. Like, how did you not
Yeah.
make money?
Yeah.
And so once I went there and I started talking to other people, I mean, can I be really frank and
Yeah.
stuff on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So it's just a bunch of fake people pretending that they want to help the world by creating and using their smarts or technology that actually isn't growing more food.
Mm.
And so what I realized is that like people are trying to do a good thing, but they're not actually implementing. And like I don't see more food because of you guys. I see more ideas
Yeah.
and more capital being raised.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I was like, shit, vertical farming's bodybuilding. And
Oh, this is the first time I ever heard that analogy. So you're gonna have to like put the pieces together for us there because this is fascinating.
just because you think it's so good, you think it's helping you, you believe that what you're taking and doing and listening to is the real and right advice. But then when you get to the nuts and bolts, it actually isn't helping you, serving you, or making you money.
Hmm. Interesting. That's wild.
Yeah. So yeah, once I got to the tech one, I realized that this industry knows nothing about mushrooms. And so I was just like, the sore thumb in the room.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, cool. I think we have a lot to offer as far as education to this industry. And I think if I can come in from all my years of failing forward and
Mm-hmm.
experience, that we can get real people together
Yeah.
who actually do want to make an impact, who have also other experience.
Yeah.
Because that was the other thing that I've seen is that there's a lot of consultants out there or a lot of people that can consult, but they don't have any working experience. And that's like tough. How can you say you can grow
Yeah.
a
That's interesting.
thousand tomatoes a week, but like you've never done it? Like
Yeah.
I get you conceptually get it, but conceptually getting something versus doing it is two different things.
What was your
So
take
that
on what you had seen elsewhere? Because I think you mentioned Smallhold as well, and I had Andrew on early days when he was just taking
oh
off. So we had a
yeah,
really great conversation. Obviously, he's since
sweet.
left the company. He's got some stories, I'm sure, that we'll probably only share with a beer
Yeah, for
behind
sure.
closed doors somewhere. But
Understandable.
what was it for you to like to see and meet other mushroom farmers and see other projects that had received like millions of dollars in funding?
Oh, I was like, oh shit, I'm doing this wrong. I was like, oh fuck, there's so much more money out there, and I'm trying to chase the wrong money. And I think that there's people out there that will avidly get it because I actually have a right plan, that's something that's actually making money too.
Yeah.
So I can bring to them that. But going and meeting other mushroom farmers, like, dude, I was locked away in a warehouse for like 3.5 years, working 7 days a week straight,
Yeah.
and I didn't look up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so like getting out, you don't realize what you've done.
Yeah,
And
of course.
I got in a room with other people, and it was like, yeah, we're producing 1,000 pounds a week, or oh, we just figured out this new extract. I was like, I produce like 20,000 pounds a month.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't realize how big that was.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize how big a deal it was. And so getting around other mushroom people, I just saw that a lot of people get really excited because there's so much potential and so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And like I've already done the shipping across the country, making a product line, trying other new products,
Mm,
getting it in different formulas, or and it's really seeing that just because you have the idea doesn't mean it's going to go through.
yeah.
And I think that because there's no experts in this industry yet, that it's really hard for people to get a base. And I think a lot of people are wasting their time and money, more than anything.
So talk a little bit about the business, where it is current day, and like who you're working with, who you're partnering with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a funny small hold story for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was like 2024 Expo West.
Okay.
And I'm I've got 50 containers rolling, but I'm not making anything at this point.
Yeah.
It's not there. All the big contracts haven't hit yet. And I'm just like, and so I ended up making the food line, fungitarian food,
Yeah.
fully cooked oyster mushroom meals that are frozen.
Where did that idea
And
come from?
a problem, which was we had so many extra mushrooms
Okay.
and we needed to figure out a solution. Had a restaurant ask us about doing some shredded oyster dishes for their fancy Mediterranean restaurant. They did it. They were fire, but the regular people weren't going to eat it.
Okay.
And so I came up with the idea to make it like simple for kids and moms, like barbecue and Asian
Yeah,
and this
yeah,
and that. Because at farmers markets, I was trying to cook fresh mushrooms for people, but everybody was like, oh, the texture. Oh, the texture.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. Let me slice it in a way that's going to be like a pulled porkish kind of idea.
Yep.
And then that way the flavor and the texture will be perfect. And that's really where that transpired. And then fungitarian transpired from me being in the fitness industry so long and working with people who are vegans and pescatarians and carnivores. And I was like, okay, well, mushroom people need an identity. What are they? They're fungitarian.
That's funny. Okay. So you're at the expo now.
Yeah. So I'm at the expo. I put our last like $10,000 on going to the expo.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to get a deal, like hands down.
Again, no plan B.
No plan B. And so we go and like Whole Foods lights up, Sprouts lights up, get a couple other West Coast contracts. And I was like, fucking crushed it, right? But that doesn't make money right away.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that's like a 10-month thing,
Yeah.
by the time you do paperwork and stuff. And so one of the people from Smallhold found out that we were there, came there, and was like, hey, listen, we're trying to save our national contract. Can you supply the Midwest regions of Whole Foods?
Wow.
And like tomorrow, and I was like, no shit. Yeah, I got a couple extra 1,000 pounds of mushrooms sitting, no problem.
Yeah.
And so literally it hit, and it's like, they handed us like $60,000 contract,
Wow.
in a month. And then that hit. And then 4 weeks later, the 150 chains in Chicago hit. And so in like 6 weeks, it went from like 40K to like 180K,
Wow.
and it was just like every mushroom was sold and everything was gone. So like technically Smallhold's loss saved my business.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah. Wild.
Have you had any connection with any of the folks there or the team there after? Or?
I think I messaged Adam once on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And we connect with their other people that are on their team now.
Sure.
But it's all different. It's all a whole different industry, a whole different group now, And then so where we're at now and who we're working with.
Yeah.
So at that point, the chains in Chicago took off. Fresh Time Market,
Yeah.
Pete's Fresh Market, Whole Foods, and we got Meijer added on as well.
Okay.
So that was like over 150 locations of Meijer. So like right now we're in about 350 grocery stores.
Okay.
That's our bread and butter. I do food service, I do restaurants still.
Yeah.
But the whole position was to like, okay, I got us in 100 restaurants, but it's a nightmare. They're terrible to work with.
Yeah.
And so the whole position was to get into grocery stores. And as that happened, we just kind of transferred some of those clients out and then focused on grocery stores. So we still service maybe 30 restaurants, 40 restaurants.
Yep.
And then we were in 10 farmers markets as well.
Yeah.
That's how we really built up the brand, but that's not priority now. I don't need to build that up anymore. So really the company is transitioning itself into a wholesale mushroom business.
Okay.
Right. And we've always said from day one, like if Cisco wanted to come in and just take everything and like, okay.
Yeah.
Getting mushrooms out to people, like
Sure.
that's it.
Sure.
So we have the last 25 containers there. They're going under construction right now. And we will hopefully have those done in like 8 weeks. And at that point, we'll be producing another 10,000 pounds
Okay.
a month. So we'll be at about 35,000 pounds a month out of that facility.
Wow. That's great. Nice job.
No, thank you. It's super cool.
What's a tough question you've had to ask yourself recently?
Ooh, how long can I do this for? I thought, because like I'm on a new wave now. There's like more shit going on.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I thought once I hit that profitability, that it was like all my problems were solved and like things run good. And like the factory, yes. But I'm at it 10 times harder than I was then now,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just a different format. And it's, that's the question I ask is, can I go at that level for this long? And the answer I keep getting is yes, you will always find the inspiration,
Yeah.
but it's because all of these new opportunities keep coming and, dangling the carrot in front of my face.
Mm.
And that's it. And I see more opportunities to be of more service to more people.
Yeah.
And that's the main mission.
What does success look like for you?
Having 10 million fungitarians.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Okay.
I want 10 million by 2027. It's a big one because I believe that's enough of a percentage of a population to actually make impactful change.
And how would you define a fungitarian?
Someone who consumes mushrooms on a daily basis as part of a high functioning, well balanced diet. Whether you eat meat or you eat plants, you become a part of the fungitarian family.
Okay.
And so whether you take mushroom supplements, whether you garden your mushroom blocks, you use mushroom compost,
Yep.
whatever it might be, that they are the infinite source on this planet, and that they are here to help and guide us and give us the information that we need. But to encompass this all embodied lifestyle of like what you and I were talking about, and working on that spiritual practice and incorporating nature into what you do and realizing that you have this symbiotic relationship with what you grow and especially with what you put into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could be putting these superfoods into your body, you're probably going to feel super.
Yeah. Of course.
So that's really what I see it as, because I believe that I have the opportunity, which you don't get in another lifetime, to be able to gear people towards a new food.
Yeah.
Like for the first time ever, kids are now learning about a new food that never existed in abundance, or new supplements that have never existed.
Yeah.
And that, that's where I'm focusing more on the younger generation.
That makes sense.
Like 24 to 35, they're my buying power.
Yeah.
Right. And I have the high end athlete and the wellness mom and all that stuff. But the real focus for me is getting it back to kids, because what really stemmed it for me was being at farmers markets.
Yeah.
And parents being like, oh no, they won't like it. Oh no, no, you're ruining their dreams.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. And so I realized I needed to make it fun for kids and really go back in. But I see just the level of issues that we're having within society of more autism, more ADHD, and all of these problems that weren't at the levels or rates that I was when I was a kid. And I'm also an ADHD child that was prescribed medicine and never taught how to learn and all of those things. And it's like, I think there's a huge opportunity for kids to connect more to the earth through mushrooms. I'm really trying to work with the Chicago school to get a 5th grade class all on a research study taking lion's mane for 3 to 6 months, so that we can see. I already have parents doing it and giving me the results that their kid is like going up and speaking in front of class and like actually listening and and so that's really what I do it for. But it's once we can get them to realize, like, if every parent in America realizes that their kid should take a brain boosting supplement that's going to make them focus better instead of taking Adderall, well, we're winning,
Yeah. That's very admirable. I love that you shared that. Thank you. I like to leave some time at the end of these conversations for any messages you have for the indoor farming world. There's a lot of like your fellow leaders that listen to the show and always trying to increase this sense of collaboration, and I know some of it was spoken about at Indoor AgCon. I think it was a bit of a wake-up call, this most recent one, where, we're seeing the plenties of the world and the bankruptcies, and everyone's kind of like having this rude awakening that maybe you actually need farmers to run farms. So I think, I don't know what you saw in some of the talks, but it seemed like that was the trend that people were mentioning. So any thoughts you have to kind of continue like this feeling of collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was a little upset, but I realized you got to fail first to understand how to do it right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they all needed to go through, because the industry is so new. And I think people are taking their lumps and refocusing and prioritizing the people. And I think if we can draw the right minded people together, that we can focus on doing projects that are actually going to benefit the human, not going to benefit just our pockets.
Yeah.
And I met so many cool other people there that inspired me to be like, oh, wow, you guys are really doing regenerative farming. You are giving back to the community. And so like they're out there. And I think we as an industry need to come together more
Yeah.
because there's enough. Like there's enough for
Of
everybody,
course. Yeah, for sure.
and it's like why, I met a partner there now that I'm working on and doing consulting, and it's like they were my missing puzzle piece and I was their
Mm.
missing puzzle
Oh,
piece,
nice.
and it's so I do think that if we as an industry start putting the priority on are we producing more food at a lower cost and it's getting out to more people,
Yeah.
other than that, why are we doing this?
Yeah. How have you grown as a leader since starting this all?
Oh man, unbelievably,
Yeah.
like I'm 14 employees, you know, like it's insane and that was honestly one of the coolest things that I've seen within this. And that's why I want to, I guess, yeah, that's the message I have for farms and other industries. Like what worked at my facility was that I did everything.
Yeah.
There wasn't
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
employee around that like didn't like I timed every task
Yeah.
to my ability. And then I would hire people bent on what they could do and let them know this is the time frame. I don't expect you to do it like this,
Mm.
but you should get to this.
Yeah.
And when you have a leader within your facility who has also done everything and knows how to do everything,
Yeah.
that leads a level of expectation upon themselves
Absolutely.
that they know that, well, just because he's the boss, he could still do it,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so within that, putting that leadership into other employees and other workers, and to know that my guys have seen me go and do deliveries during rush hour in Chicago
Yeah.
and like whatever it takes
Yeah.
to make it work. And I believe that just seeing how important that is for them, for me to go above and beyond
Mm-hmm.
and to set that I care more than anything, which makes them care more.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell this all the time, and my employees know it. So a lot of them have been with us from day one,
Wow.
And it's, they stay because they believe in my dream
Mm.
and I believe in them.
Yeah.
And they know I can't have my dream without them.
Mm.
And I tell like, that's it. They're just as important in the whole thing. Because I can make a good business, but I can't make good people. And so that's the toughest thing that I've learned in all of this. And I've hired and fired a lot of people, and I think that's the biggest problem that I have seen. It's not the businesses, it's the people that you're putting in these positions. Because I'd rather have somebody that knows nothing and wants to learn everything than somebody who thinks they know everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's really made me grow as a leader, and it was the best schooling I've ever got.
I'm sure there'll be more lessons to follow after.
So much more, so much more. It's never-ending learning. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on and thanks for making the time. I know we had to kind of reschedule some stuff, but I do remember like the panel, but it was really like getting to hear the whole story at Indoor Icon, where I was just like, oh, this is a really good story. And I think you're very charismatic, and I think it's important to have like voices like yours in this industry. I mean, I started the show in 2020 without knowing zero about vertical farming, and I'm just educating myself through these conversations. I was just curious. I just wanted to know.
Oh, that's so cool, dude.
And so I just wanted to like learn more. We're just only recently, we just, redid our outdoor garage. And so we've got some shelves in there. We got some LED lights and just kind of basic growing our seeds there. But I'll have to kind of pick your brain about some mushroom ideas. So.
Yeah, if you want some mushroom tips, don't worry. We'll send you out some blocks. So you'll be able to get it going. Yeah. But yeah, that's super cool, man. And I'm glad it's inspired. And I'm sure so many other people get inspired from hearing this and hearing the truth,
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Just giving the real.
Yeah. Well, where's the best place for folks to connect you and learn more?
So I have a new e-commerce page coming out, fungitarian.life, launching May 1st. You can find me on LinkedIn, John James Staniszewski, Mr. Fungitarian, or on Instagram, Mr. Fungitarian.
We'll make sure all those links, I think you sent them over as well, that they're all going to be in the show notes, so everyone can just find those there.
And that's for one more, I'll just do one more plug. It's my Fungitarian Life community, which I'm launching the best bioavailable mushroom tinctures and gummies on the entire market.
Okay.
And they're alcohol free so that they can be given to kids as well.
Okay.
The gummies are shaped like mushrooms so that kids can have fun with it. But we've really realized a lot in this industry. And I guess want to say one more thing on it. not all mushroom supplements are created equal.
Hmm.
And we are doing a lot of extensive research, learning how they absorb into the body and realizing that the format that we're consuming them in isn't absorbing the best that it should.
Hmm.
And so we are coming out with new ways and new formulas, different technology and sonication processes, and adding the right ingredients and doing the right processes so that these mushroom tinctures and these gummies can be absorbed by almost 70 to 80% more
Wow.
than any other regular tincture.
Wow.
And so the fungitarian.life page is going to be a community page it'll have other stuff on Facebook and social medias where anybody can come and talk about their experiences, how they've benefited and how it's helped them and how they decide to fungitarian.
Nice. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. I'll make sure we check that out. Definitely
Yeah,
sign up for that. That's
for sure.
exciting. Well,
Yeah,
it
thanks, man.
seems like the learning's never gonna stop.
You're right, Harry. It's not.
We'll put a ribbon on this conversation, but I'll
Don't.
definitely be tracking your progress. I appreciate your time, John.
Yeah, Harry, thank you so much, man. Really, really appreciate you.
Buzz.